Jeremy here. Today we're going to be taking a look at Fuzz Dungeon. The well, back to your job, has been absorbed inside a Sasquatch sex amulet. Journey through 15 levels of absurdist human history to try and bring it back. So reads the Fuzz Dungeon listing on Steam, which, pretty good summary of the game. Fuzz Dungeon is a surreal, psychedelic adventure game published in 2021 by Jeremy Couillard that explores the human experience in an interesting and unique way that blends absurdism with poignant commentary and deeply personal thoughts and expressions. The visuals are trippy and feature dreamlike imagery, distorted shapes, mind-bending landscapes, and breathtaking alien vistas which transport you to an otherworldly realm where reality and fantasy fuse into one to push the boundaries of perception. The gameplay is simultaneously engaging and relaxing. The entire experience is a treat and one that feels deeply personal to its author, Jeremy Couillard. The whole thing takes about 90 minutes to complete. It's a real short treat. Anyhow, Jeremy Couillard is an American contemporary artist based in New York. Jeremy makes some surreal and psychedelic games in addition to his immersive video installations and virtual reality experiences. Jeremy's work often explores themes of technology, modernity, spirituality, and the human experience in a unique and captivating way. I stumbled upon some of Jeremy's games a week or so ago on the Steam store, and somehow I just fell in love with the games. I knew I had to dive into this guy and his work and his art. His website's pretty awesome, by the way. In researching this game and the artist for this video, I came across Jeremy's personal website, shown here. Here he lists upcoming and past shows and screenings of his works, gives a bit of info on his background. He was born in 1980 in Livonia. His work has been featured in outlets around the globe, and he's an associate professor of new media at LaGuardia Community College in Queens, New York. The teaching section on his site even includes links to his lectures, notes, slides, and resources for animation, intro to game design, internet video, intro to new media, and web design. I found the resources he posted highly informative and very entertaining, and I encourage anyone and everyone who's interested in these topics to give his site a browse. There's a link to his YouTube page where he's posted several behind-the-scenes type features as well as some absurdist and hilarious segments like the Bob Monroe 24/7 Out-of-Body Experience News Network. Alright, so let's walk through the game. Starting the game, we're taken to the main menu, where we get a taste of the sweet, sweet original soundtrack, which will be accompanying us throughout our playthrough. The two main options of interest here are Start and Simulation. Clicking Start begins the game proper with the player in control of the character, while clicking Simulation starts a never-ending self-propelled simulation. In Start, we are dropped briefly into a loading screen that reads, "One day at work." Our character, a rat duck witch, is at work drafting a document about the nature of Fuzz Dungeon, where Jeremy describes this concept a few words at a time every time you hit a key. Our lovely document now complete, we are permitted to wander about our office, interacting with our fellow rat duck witches, making small talk, and eventually being prompted to touch my fuzz by the talking head thing on the wall. Forgoing a complaint to HR and simply touching the aforementioned fuzz head transforms the wall into a giant vault door. The attention to detail in this game is immediately evident from this level. Looking around the office, the way everything is meticulously arranged and laid out, the different textures used on the corkboards and the notes on the wall, even one of our coworkers chilling in a chair using stacks of copier paper to prop up their feet. Also, side note, the company named on the wall to the left, Lavender Corporation, is featured in Jeremy's latest game, Escape from Lavender Island. Of course, we're not one to just ignore a giant bank vault materializing in our office, so naturally, we step through the vault door and into our adventure. This is where the game takes a shift towards the trippy side of things, both with the unique visual flair and the upbeat track that starts as soon as we enter the glowing tunnel. Reaching the end of the tunnel, we're introduced to the flying system, wherein double jumping either starts or ends flight. This mechanic is deployed somewhat consistently throughout the various levels, with flight available when it makes sense. We fly upwards and find ourselves before the famed Sasquatch sex amulet, which we are explicitly warned not to touch. And we can't help ourselves when we touch the amulet, causing the world around us to erupt in chaos. The well back to work is gone now, too. Sad day. In place of the well, which stood before us, there's a weird glowing sphere thingy which prompts us to follow the threads to retrieve the lost jewelry. Starting out, the overworld is rendered in this kind of dark theme that I find really neat. In the office, we get to see the standard rendering for the character and the standard color palette in the world around us, which stands in sharp contrast to the alien way that we see the characters rendered in this kind of glowing lines outline, which reminds me of other psychedelic themed art. These glowing textures not only make it easier to see everything in this darker setting, but is also just really fun to look at. So the overworld is comprised of 15 different levels. Each level is represented in this hub world as a building with a computer display and a trophy stand. Unvisited levels are shown with dynamic glowing textures that draws our attention, making finding our way where we need to go rather trivial. Each level is connected to the center with luminescent threads, and we can easily see our progress and the other levels available to us. Each stage has a reward that you receive simply for completing the level, and an optional trophy that you can get based on your performance in a given level. Paleolithic Runner. The first of the mini-games we get to play is a basic 2.5D collector platformer. Our hero, the Rat Duck Witch, dons this bone helmet thing and tries to collect as many bones as possible, jumping when appropriate. Speed is static, you cannot control the forward motion, so this section will basically always last about 90 seconds. Despite being so short, I think this is a really fun and engaging level based on the soundtrack and trippy visuals alone. There's no fail state as such, but you do get different trophies based on the number of bones that you collect. Weirdly, this is also the only level in the Paleolithic era stage. Our second minigame is titled simply Sports and sees us rendered in a beautifully hand-drawn 2D style as we take control of our protagonist, who's tasked with trying to score 10 goals in a game of soccer type stuff before the opponent does. The whole level is narrated with interesting tidbits. You get the distinct impression that a lot of thought and love has gone into making this extraterrestrial landscape, as there appears to be a whole alphabet and some common design elements throughout the world. Really showing off that consistent visual theme with the rather alien-looking world here. I especially like the goalposts here. Now that I'm staring at it, actually, the background appears to be a hand-drawn version of the overworld we found ourselves in earlier. Super neat touch. I suck at soccer, so naturally this level was a bit tougher for me. You get the reward for this level regardless of whether or not you beat the opponent, but you only get a trophy for winning. Farmer. Next, we are gloriously returned to 3D for the Farmer level. Pretty straightforward, we just follow the instructions given to us by our overlords, but this does nicely showcase the increasing complexity of the minigames. The first level saw us given only one action, jump, while the second level gave us 2 dimensions of movement within a limited space, and with this level, we're given 2 dimensions of movement plus an action, plant seed. There are 3 rounds of planting in this game. It's pretty hard to get it wrong, but it is possible to lock yourself into the geometry of the level if you're standing in the wrong spot. When something you planted finally pops up, the first round asks us to plant seeds in holes, then to feed the hungry mouths, and finally to drop seeds in the voids. This pleases, or maybe annoys, the shaman. Either way, he goes away and lets us ascend the throne and complete the level. This also concludes the Neolithic era and begins the Iron Age. 3 heads, also called, confusingly, boss heads by the trophy stand. This might be one of my favorite stages in Fuzz Dungeon. It's a basic space shooter. You just shoot at the weak spots on the giant alien heads floating in front of you, while aforementioned heads spews smaller heads that attack you. Another super short section. This level will only last about 2 minutes, regardless of your play speed, because it is synced to the soundtrack. The chill but upbeat soundtrack, the endearing creature designs, and simple gameplay combined with its short time make it pretty hard not to enjoy this one. The little weak spots take quite a few hits to take down. If I were to nitpick here, I'd say it would be nice to have a more tactile feedback for this kind of hit, maybe varying the noise the boss heads make in response or something. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but it's pretty great. Interrogation. Next, we get interrogated by a bunch of alien dudes who communicate with us via Amazon Alexa. These ET bosses are none too happy we've stolen their Sasquatch sex amulet, and boy, does they have questions. This section lasted about 5 minutes for me. It was pretty funny, though I only got a silver trophy on this level and was told my conversation skills were just average. Tough crowd to please. Puke passages. Following our interrogation, we head on to Puke passages, which sees us navigate the titular passages, completing different objectives as instructed by the text at the bottom of the screen. Enjoyable, if a bit tedious at times, with a good dose of LOLXD random. I quite like some of the small details here. The model buildings in one of the rooms match up with the building designs in the overworld. Just completing the level is enough to get us our reward, but actually getting a trophy requires discovering secrets. The secrets must be very well hidden, I must say, as I myself did not find any secrets throughout my 3 or 4 playthroughs. It would have been nice to see some gameplay mechanics stacking here, which the format of the level would have naturally accommodated, and to have seen the building complexity we saw in the first couple of levels continued here. Marketplace of Images is the next stage, and it's a simple memory game that asks us to not buy more than one of each image. It's set in an otherworldly art market with hundreds of stock images in different sizes and in different frames, with a good number of repeat images that we want to avoid. The double jump to fly mechanic is enabled here, which is super handy in navigating the marketplace. Upbeat elevator music plays in the background, much as it probably would at an alien shopping mall. The gameplay here is simple, but it can be challenging once you've collected a few dozen images and are straining to remember which images you already have and which images only look similar. Everything about this level is just endearing. The play mechanics are straightforward. Collecting new images feels nice. The weird-looking creatures wandering around is a neat touch, and the soundtrack is just banger, bro. And that ends the Iron Age and begins the Industrial Revolution stage. C2I, Digital Behavior Therapist. The next level sees another return to 2D as we're tasked with wandering around, collecting these heads and talking with our digital therapist, trying to collect as many heads as we can and answering the therapist's questions. Working our way around the map, we talk to giant heads in each room who ask us questions or give us instructions. The questions are the kind you'd expect from a normal standard therapist, but the options we're given for answers are deeply amusing. No matter which answers you choose, however, the reply is always the same. Response recorded, please proceed. Eventually, we go to collect our prescription. It's been Adderall for me every time, though I don't know if this is always the case. After which we waddle our way to the pharmacy and pick up our giant cartoon pill. An interesting level, not the most engaging level personally, but short and quirky. Would have been much more enjoyable if the talking heads had follow-up questions or varied their responses in reaction to our answers. The comedic fit of saying these off-the-wall things is kind of the normie reaction to all the insanity. At least, that's one opinion. Walkin Queens is a simplistic platformer that continues in one direction at a constant speed, and rather interestingly uses Google Street View photos of Jackson Avenue in New York City as the backdrop. Office supplies make up the obstacles and jumpable surfaces in this section. While there's a basic enemy which you must avoid lest you take damage and need to restart, collecting heads is again the basic goal here. The assembly line is the next level, and it's probably one of my least favorite to play. The goal in this level is to place Meat Boys in boxes by navigating the food dispensing alien machine thing above 2 conveyor belts holding fast food boxes. At precisely 2 minutes, it is mercifully short, which is quite the relief because successfully getting these little buggers in their boxes is surprisingly difficult. The Meat Boys drop rather slowly, the conveyor belts vary in speed. All in all, I found completing this level to be something of a chore, but I enjoyed the narration over top of it. Satellite Birds is another space shooter type minigame, but this time we have 3-dimensional controls as opposed to the earlier 3 heads level, which was timed and on the rails. Again, our goal here is just to shoot things with our space laser, being required to shoot a certain number of things in each area before we're allowed to proceed. Once we get to a part that looks like it should be the end of the level, Fuzz Dungeon mixes it up a bit, throwing us into another on-the-rails section where we have to defeat more boss heads. The music in this section is a bit more up-tempo, everything is coming at us real fast. This was a nifty little surprise. Nostalgia is a rather intriguing level, one that is quite evidently very personal to its creator. In this level, we're tasked with collecting stuff. I'm not actually sure what we're collecting here. There's like 4 different columns on the HUD tracking stuff that we can collect. There's alien symbols floating around the level, standing in or near them for a few seconds results in their collection. There's a counter for octo coins, little floating coins found throughout the area. Collecting each one narrates a few words at a time from a longer narrative. There's some texture squares to the right with numbers next to them, and there's a collection of different familiar symbols to collect from the oversized innocents of the area, each of whom have a few words of wisdom to impart. I don't think gameplay mechanics are necessarily the focus of this level, or at least that was my interpretation, but rather the gallery that is this area holds a lot of memories in the form of personal thoughts dispensed by the alien creatures inhabiting the level. The story is formed by collecting the coins, and the videos playing on the walls of the gallery seem to be home videos, maybe, probably, possibly videos from Jeremy's personal life, I don't know. The music for this section is likewise rather soothing, combining a melancholic melody with the optimistic tones like someone remembering pleasant times gone by. One thing that deeply personally touched me was something one of the denizens said. Hopefully in my next life, I won't be such a coward. Hopefully I will believe in things. The next level, Photojournalist, sees us taking the role of a journalist tasked with photographing anomalies in a surreal, nightmarish factory. The standout in this section is definitely the music, which Chris Perello talked about at quite some length. The music is something he did for our installation that ended up making it into the game.
As far as the music with this one, this actually is kind of another one which was an installation piece of mine from maybe 2015. That it was 12 amplifiers in a room, where basically you could kind of explore the space and find different pockets of consonance and dissonance. But part of an unforeseen part of when I had made it was I didn't want it to be little loops. I wanted them to be long. When I was actually in the studio doing it, I did these parts for 8 minutes long, and I didn't anticipate how difficult it was going to be to do that. So the work kind of transformed for me, and every time I hear it, I think about myself being like, oh my God, like I didn't think this was going to be hard. And it was kind of turned into this weird, like, tense endurance. I think that seeing the factory and the kind of expansive space of that, and then the kind of restlessness and kind of complex feeling of the breathing of all those 12 amplifiers happening, felt like a good match to kind of have that kind of bubbling things that are revealing, but a feeling of anxiety when you bring everything together. It is uncomfortably dissonant, though if one spends time with it, kind of complicated in a way that one might want to look closer. So I don't know. That's, I think, to me, as far as feeling expansive in the space and relentless and not per se comfortable, but also maybe not obvious, something that makes you want to maybe look a little closer.
The level can be considered a statement on labor and work. Both Chris and Jeremy talk a bit about labor, how the tools used change the creative process, and how people are receiving less and less from their labor.
Labor, people working make less and less from their labor, and people who invest money in capital are making more and more. And there's like this huge shift happening since like the 70s that's like really a gaping thing right now. And it's such an easy fix, but we're just not going to do it. And so it's like super frustrating. But then also like some of it about just getting drunk and high with your friends. It's just like sometimes I think a lot about ambition and like living in New York.
The whole interview is rather fascinating. If you enjoyed my video so far or enjoyed hearing about this game, go check it out. Link in the description. Gameplay in this level is not super engaging, at least for me. Finding the anomalies is fun enough, but they can be a bit frustrated towards the end when you're looking for the one or two that you've missed. The level design is repetitive in a kind of way that lends itself well to the statements it's making on labor, with the labyrinthian depths of the factory very much reminiscent of something from a Nightmare, half remembered and very fuzzy, with only the anomalies standing out. I just wanted to note also, the anomalies seem to be having a lot of fun, and factory workers not so fun. So I thought that was an interesting observation. The second to last of the levels, Depths of Flombus, takes us back once more to beautiful hand-drawn 2D backgrounds. Our goal here is simple. There's 6 drawings. Collect all of the things in each of the drawings. It's a different thing for each backdrop. Certain lines and surfaces constitute collision, or surfaces your avatar can travel upon, and collecting all of the things lets you progress to the next area / backdrop. Not much in the way of commentary or deeper meaning here, but it is rather soothing and enjoyable, with the jazzy music accompanying the different alien guys doing their little happy dances next to the drawings. They're just chilling. The whole thing feels like an excited, you're almost there kind of vibe. This is the end of the Industrial Revolution and begins the Information Age. The apartment takes us into a scale model replica of Jeremy's apartment living room, which the narration tells us he constructed during a particularly lonely time for him. This level is just so comfortable, so real and humanizing in a fresh way. It's obviously a deeply personal, vulnerable communication from Jeremy to us, what his world looks like, the feelings he has, or at least had, how he comforts himself, what he thinks about, the books he reads. It's all very touching. The gameplay mechanics are, once again, not the focus of this level, as we're simply tasked with completing the tasks the Fuzz monster gives us, like collecting fuzz around the apartment, and ends with him asking us to make the room comfortable by turning on the TV, switching the laptop to porn, and turning off the lights. Extremely relatable. I love keeping the lights low when I'm trying to relax, and porn is pretty fun. Of course, the highlight of this level is the detailed replica of Jeremy's apartment and the narration that accompanies it. Regardless, once we've appeased the Fuzz monster, we are given the Sasquatch 6 amulet and permitted to return to our world to conclude our quest. This concludes the Information Age and begins the future. All of the levels having been visited now, the only thing left to do is return to the glowing orb thingy at the ground level. Approaching the orb, we're asked if we'd like to enter the Fuzz Suburbs, which we agree to and are transported to an urban area, urban-ish. We're given 3 challenges. One is to ride on top of cars for 30 seconds total without getting hit. Another sees us hiding corpses in corners, and the last challenge is to game end ourselves. As we get hit by a car, we're congratulated on leaving our body and going on to start something new. Leaving the suburbs, we are at the end of the game now, with the 3 boss heads jamming out on a stage with our 3 ending options. A deep, resonant, bass-heavy song drops in the background. There's a giant alien chick twerking, psychedelic plants bloom, there's a huge crowd. It's just vibes. Credits begin to roll, and we are given control of our character one last time, and presented with the 3 options for an ending. Start society over from scratch, return to our old lives, or stay here and party with these chill-ass alien dudes. I chose the last one. This game, according to the author, is the product of 2 years of his life. The quality here is evident, the care and love that the game's author poured into this shines through in every aspect here, from the cute and quirky character designs, the thoughtful level design, the detailed word theme and aesthetic, the deeply personal and vulnerable moments woven throughout, all underlined by kind of gentle optimism, balancing a frustration that the world would be such a better place if some very minor changes were made, with the hope that something new is just around the corner. If you're watching, I think you're a cool guy, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself playing your games. Thank you, and cheers. Unmasking and personal bits. Unmasking? I don't know what that means, bro. Unmasking. Why would that be in the script? That's a funny line to write, bro. Why would that be in the script? Well, that's Fuzz Dungeon, you guys. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead, drop a like, and subscribe. Scooby-Doo-Doo! What's up, guys? It's your host, DisguiseBro here. I'm Shane. Nice to meet you. Kind of a new YouTuber here. Until next time, take care.